probably me playing them bangers. And I know bangers.
Today we have Joe Rogan in full damage control after the Epstein files got leaked, y'all. Now, there were a lot of politicians, celebrities, prime ministers, officials, public. All of these people were getting exposed for being tied with this entire Epstein case. And it's kind of crazy to see how all of a sudden, a couple of weeks later, after the Super Bowl, after the Bad Bunny performance, all of these things just kind of get swept under the rug. Like, all these things are no longer a topic of conversation. But for Joe Rogan, it's real life because he has connections with a lot of people who were allegedly on that island. Make sure you guys do leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. But let's get into it, y'all.
That's a very specific illicit desire to want people.
Well,
how do you even find out that someone's into that?
Well, I don't think that the majority or anything close to it of the women were technically. I think it was largely very, barely legal, so to speak. But and I know that there were cases of age, but I think
most of it was just
very, very not like
20-year-old,
not
girls,
like 18-year-old
girls
type thing. And then remember, because this is an international enterprise, and many of the clients are like, in countries that don't necessarily have the same norms about that that we do. You can very easily see someone getting involved in that just because girls juice deals.
All right, so the Joe Rogan experience is just getting sad at this point. It feels like it's turned into a PR tool for the Epstein clients. After maybe the biggest file drop yet, Joe had on Mike Benz, who is a Elon Musk lackey. So of course there's no mention of Elon during this podcast, even though his emails are one of the biggest revelations from the files, which now Elon, Mr. Free Speech, is threatening to sue people for talking about it or even associating him with the files. I'm sure Joe will have a lot to say about that. No, Rogan is cooked. People used to look forward to hearing him talk about stuff like this, but now he's way too connected to people involved with Epstein. So he has to ignore and downplay a lot of the information coming out. Also, a lot of his guests work for or are associated with people in the Epstein files as well. So he rarely hears an unbiased perspective on them. If he really wanted a good rundown of the recent file drop, he'd have on somebody like CoffeeZilla. Like, he's probably done the best reporting on it, and he's impartial. He has no incentive to protect anybody. So he'd be the best person to hear from. But instead, Joe talked about the recent files with Mike Benz, who's part of the establishment. He worked for the government. He worked under Trump's first administration, and he panders to Elon Musk. So this guy is not an objective source at all when it comes to the Epstein files. And during this podcast, he spent a lot of time trying to downplay, but also almost justify the allegations and convince people that it wasn't a blackmail operation, which Rogan barely pushed back on. Like, he used to say it's an island with cameras everywhere. They have dirt on all these high-profile people. But now it's like, were they really girls? Is there a blackmail operation?
And Jeffrey Epstein, for the past 3 years of their lives has been the best weekend they've ever had. Has made them feel alive again in their mid-50s or 60s. Has opened all sorts of other deals for them, and this deal might work out. So I'm afraid that if I say no to Jeffrey Epstein on this deal, I'm not going to get an invite to the next party. I'm not going to be able to get laid again with.
In the public eye, the narrative is girls, and this is the thing that makes it so disgusting. When people talk about it, everyone says kids on there.
Bro, it goes beyond just the woman at that point, bro. Like, I don't know how many of you guys have seen the alleged leaked pictures of literal people on the table with food, bro. Like, there were actually a lot of disgusting things going on these islands. And obviously people are going to be like, oh, it's just conspiracy theory. You can't prove it. But it's like, just take a look at the emails. There was an entire thing with Pizzagate. Pizzagate was big because people were coming out and connecting the dots, bruh.
Island. This is the big conspiracy about it, and this is the reason why people are so outraged about it.
My concern with the runaway train on that is that it's a massive manhunt for something that it may be true. To me, it's a needle in the haystack. It might be true. Good luck looking for it. It would seem ludicrous to me that Epstein doesn't mean it's impossible. But logistically, if Epstein ever directly threatened someone proactively, that is, if the person tries to blackmail Epstein, Epstein could, reactively say, well, I've got shit on you too. But proactively and really, really do someone in like that, and word gets around that happens, everything he built goes, the whole Rolodex finds out.
So it sounds like he's trying to convince people it's not really worth looking into the king and blackmail aspect of the files. But then he'd go on these long-winded monologues about the more important aspects of it, and he'd just be all over the place. Like, he'd be talking about Epstein, then jump to like 10 other topics. And people in the comments are just like, I've never heard someone say so much without saying anything. And Rogan posted a clip of them talking about the Epstein files to the JRE Clips channel. And all the comments are negative, calling Rogan a sellout and saying he's compromised and trying to do damage control. Because there's so much new information from the recent...
This guy said a lot of words, but that's all that happened.
Files release, and it seems like Joe and his guests
coming out doing PR for his boys. This guy's playing defense for those who are
didn't talk about any of that, and instead his guests try to convince people that it's not really worth looking into the child trafficking aspect of it. The most heinous part of the files isn't worth looking into. So we used to hear Epstein had compromising tapes and pictures on all these high profile people. His whole house was rigged with cameras, but now Rogan's guest is trying to convince us that there was none of that, because word would get out. He tries to say if Epstein told someone he has dirt on them, they'd go running and tell their wife, which just sounds ridiculous. If Epstein told someone he had a video of them molesting a kid, I don't know if they'd want to go tell someone about that, especially their wife. Also, he's like, nobody's even ever claimed they've been blackmailed by Epstein. But again, why the hell would you admit that? Why would you want to tell anybody if you were? And I'm sure a lot of the blackmail is implied. Like, Epstein didn't really have to threaten many people because you just assume if you're at an Epstein party, there's probably video of it.
I've never been convinced that the central role of the Epstein young girl, in my view, sidebar of the Epstein money laundering story is that it was for blackmail. And part of this is because the moment Jeffrey Epstein officially threatens somebody with blackmail, and that person tells his wife, and that wife tells her friends, and that gets out to somebody else that knows Jeffrey Epstein's access goes away overnight. That's the sort of thing
is this guy,
that
bro?
Even a rumor of that spreading.
Who is this guy?
And nobody else is going to want to do business with him.
So you think people just assume it's blackmail because that is how you would blackmail someone, especially underage girls?
I think it is very possible that there could have been indirect blackmail, meaning Epstein passes it on to an intelligence service, to a corporate espionage client or something. But even then, I mean, imagine, for example, if, like on the Bill Gates thing, like there was Bill Gates gets an email, I have a video of you sleeping with this person. And, or somebody much lower level, the moment they send that to the press, if, in order to, they figure they have nothing to lose. I mean, there's not been anybody in the 7 years that's transpired who said I was personally blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein. I think because the moment,
by saying that you've been blackmailed by Jeffrey Epstein is automatically showing that you were guilty, bro. Who in the no drug dealer has ever said, "Oh my God, I'm being blackmailed." Duh. No one has ever said that if you're a drug dealer, if you're a criminal. "Oh my God, I'm being blackmailed by Pablo Escobar. I'm being blackmailed by El Chapo." Bro, no one is going to say that because it shows that you're immediately guilty. It shows your guilt. It's almost a confession to say, yeah, I was on the island. Yeah, I mean, those videos did happen and he's kind of using them against me. No one ever says that. Bro, who is this guy, bro?
You do that, nobody comes to your parties anymore. You lose all the access. You lose all the deal flow.
And it's funny he mentions Bill Gates because that's an example where it looks like Epstein was definitely trying to blackmail him. Like Epstein was trying to hold that prostitution story over his head to get him to do business deals, which was one of the biggest takeaways from the files. So it's weird now he's trying to tell us that there was no blackmail when we basically got proof of it from the recent files. And it's also weird he's trying to convince us that there wasn't much of under going on, because he also at the same time talks about how the societal norms and laws are different in other countries, so it isn't as frowned upon to be with young girls, like implying that maybe he did young girls, but he was facilitating them to people in other countries where it isn't as big of a deal. Like he compared it to this other company that was working with the US government. It was under to high profile people in the Middle East, and their defense for it was the government wanted them to help facilitate deals, and this was the best way to go about it.
U.S. military and CIA contractor for logistics and institutional support and military assistance on the ground for the U.S. military all over the world. They got in trouble moving, basically to Middle Eastern sheikhs. And I believe the reason that was alleged by Congress that they did that was to juice the deals with them. That in order to serve your purpose for the U.S. government, to be this outside, plausibly deniable, but extensively infrastructured professional support outfit on the ground.
I'm going to be honest with y'all, bro. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing this man speak, bro. I'm just going to be real. I'm going to be real. Because he's not making any sense. Everything that he's been saying is contradicting what he previously said. Everything that he's been saying has already been exposed by the files that did get leaked. It just doesn't make sense, y'all. I'm going to end this video here. The reason why I thought it was such an interesting topic of conversation is because these conversations is what's being promoted by Joe Rogan on his podcast, which is the reason why it seems like he's in full damage control, y'all. The reason why that he's allowing people like this to try to come on these platforms and cover up with what's really going on and try to make it seem less of what it actually is. To me, that's wrong, bro. You know it's wrong. He knows what he's doing. But it's almost like you're trying to be friends with the friend that you had, and now you're trying to cover up your friend because you know your friend got in trouble. It's like, come on, bro. Relax. But I'm going to end this video here. If you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe. Let me catch y'all next one, man. Peace.